Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
Hello.
Hello.
I am Katie.
I'm Ben.
And we are here to chat with you about a game that we both really love. Just for some background, Ben and I both we're 2/3 of the crew over at twitch.tv/unprofessional ventures, where we do a lot of variety streaming, specifically a lot of ttrpgs, recently a big focus on 5e games, and that brings us into what we're going to talk about. We also stream a whole lot of World of Warcraft.
Yes, we do. For a little like additional context just about our backgrounds, I've been playing World of Warcraft for over a decade. It was something that I fell into following my introduction to MMORPGs, which was RuneScape back in the day. Still a great game. Still glad it exists, but World of Warcraft really captured my imagination. With the lore being what it is. If you've been living under a rock for the last more than 15 years, World of Warcraft is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game. So it was first released back in 2004. It is made by Blizzard Entertainment. I'm sure you guys have heard of them plenty of times in the news, for better or for worse, which is something we will talk about. Usually for worse, yes. Which is something that we will address. It was originally set in the Warcraft fantasy universe, established in the RTS games that came out starting in 1994, I think. Many years ago.
They're as old as I am.
Yes, they are. Great games. They still hold up. And Katie, you are much newer to the World of Warcraft universe.
Yes, I am. I'm kind of new to the gaming space in general. For me, I grew up playing the most basic computer games. I'm talking Jumpstart Third Grade and the Harry Potter games. And I did play some Sims, which was the closest to, I guess, what we consider to be a video game now, because I don't even know that those Harry Potter games still are playable at this point in time. And so I got into World of Warcraft in 2020. It was essentially my first video game, technically my second, because I did play about 12 hours of Divinity Original Sin and died by standing in fire almost immediately because I didn't know that red flames on ground equals bad. So I had a very different sort of introduction to World of Warcraft than, say, Ben did, because I didn't know really anything about game mechanics. I didn't really understand even how gaming works, especially multiplayer online gaming with multiple people. So yeah, I definitely look at this through a very different lens than someone like Ben does.
Which is why we decided that instead of this being one of us talking to you all, that it might be a little bit more interesting for me as an old hand. I rated semi-competitively back at the beginning of Cataclysm, if you're familiar with that particular expansion. Been playing this game ages. So it might be more fun than to have this dialogue of a new player and an old player talking about their experiences and how they may or may not differ based on just exposure to games and gaming mechanics. I don't stand in fire, for example.
I don't anymore.
This is true. This is very true. But also, growing up playing a lot of video games and being exposed to the communities that come with the good, the bad, and the ugly, versus someone like Katie, who is reaching, the point where this is now very much a familiar thing, but was not that long ago very new, and experiencing that as an adult and how that's different from sort of growing up in it. So, Katie, let's start out first and foremost. Unless you have something that you want to...
I just really wanted to quickly address, there's a lot of stuff that has happened with Blizzard that actually we took a break from the game for a while when all the new stuff came out. We don't want to necessarily dig into that on this podcast. One big thing is that they were bought by Microsoft, which, for better or for worse, we'll find out. But corporations are corporations. Gaming companies are notoriously pretty awful. And we don't necessarily want to spend too much time digging into that on this specific podcast, but just want to note that we are aware and that it is something that we have talked about probably ad nauseum with each other over the last however long it's been.
Yes, absolutely. That is a fantastic point.
Yes.
So with that out of the way,
yes,
sort of big red disclaimer there. We know
big old flashing red flag.
Yes. So let's talk about your gaming experience thus far.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, let's start with what brought you to WoW. What caught your eye?
Well, in case you were living under a rock or listening to this 100 years in the future, there was a massive pandemic in 2020, and we were being exceptionally careful. I know that some people blocked down for 2 weeks and went back to normal. For us, we were kind of inside for a year plus and not doing much of anything. I read a ton of books, I was listening to a lot of podcasts, but I missed my friends. And my fiance, who is interviewing me currently, is a huge gamer. And he was spending a lot of time playing different video games. And specifically, he started playing WoW again. And I found out that actually a couple of my high school friends and then a couple of our current friends are longtime WoW players. And it just turned into a really wonderful way to keep a community going while we couldn't physically be with people. So that was probably the biggest draw for me, outside of the fact that the world is just beautiful and the story is fun, and having basically just an open world to play in, especially at the beginning. Like now I will push mythics and do that high level end game content. When I first started, it was just kind of fun to have something to go into and essentially a world to experience that was a little bit less shitty. Well, less shitty, questionably, because, there are massive wars going on, but a fantasy element that is different than the world that we were living in then, / I guess are currently living in now.
So it's interesting that you sort of highlight the distinction there between your original experience and sort of exploring the world and just appreciating for what it is, to the way that you play the game now, which I think in a much shorter time span very much mirrors my experience. I started playing the game by actually just watching. My younger brothers started playing first. My aunt actually is the first person to introduce the game to us, and so I watched endgame content before I started playing the game, became very enamored of it, and then decided that I wanted to move from RuneScape to something else, which was World of Warcraft. Played for a number of years and then took a break for 5 or 6-ish years when Mists of Pandaria came out, and then came back and I'm back to playing endgame content. But you have a much more condensed timeline here, where it's 2022 now, and you started playing approximately 2 years ago, and you've gone from newbie experiencing the game for the very first time to someone who's pushing, obviously not professional level keys, but sort of in that upper echelon of players. So I'm curious, for you as a new, not just to WoW, but as a new player to video games as a whole, what was it like stepping into a game that is very well established, with a group of players that has been playing for, I think on average, somewhere around like 10 or 12 years?
Yeah. I mean, it was sort of a pressure cooker, especially because I know that the people that I was playing with were already in the top tier of World of Warcraft players. And I just didn't know basic things about, like I said, like where to stand, where not to stand, like how to learn your rotation, understanding how to, whether it's conserve mana or energy or whatever it is, like all that stuff, all of those mechanics, very new to me. And I did not have that foundation of like even having played an MMO before to sort of build upon. But I think that because everyone I was playing with was so advanced, the learning curve was challenging, but it was also very quick. And it was kind of like, I mean, for me, it felt like either get better or you can't play with your friends, which I'm sure was not the intended. No one said to me, like, if you're not good enough, you can't play with us. But, I'm very, I'm very competitive at my core, so it was very important to me that I was able to pull my weight. And once we did get up to endgame content and we were pushing mythic dungeons, I did not want to be the person that was holding the group back. So I just kind of had to get it together and figure out how to play the game. And I watched some videos, but I also had a full-time job, so it was very there were times when it was very tilting and very frustrating. And there were times where like I did get upset because it just felt like I was never going to know all the things that you guys knew from years and years and years and years of playing the game. But I did stick with it also because there was nothing else to do. And I'm kind of glad that there wasn't, because now it's so much fun. And it is really, at least for us, for our guild, a virtual community of people who I have a lot of fun hanging out with and pushing keys with and just like engaging in that content with. So yeah, that was a very long-winded answer to say sucked at times. I'm really glad it happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious, so now that you've experienced being new and then rapidly developed into a very good mechanical player.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Going from playing with a group of folks all on Discord, who you know personally, to experiencing the community, the wider community in pugs. In case you're not familiar with the term, it's pick up group or pug. So what was that experience like, going from playing with friends, playing with fiance, or I guess boyfriend at that point in time, which in fairness, I can be a little bit of a stickler about mechanics.
I wasn't going to say anything. I was going to give you a little bit of the benefit of the doubt there.
I'm happy to own my piece of that.
You're kind of a jerk sometimes.
I am also very competitive. And when people don't do the mechanics, I have a hard time. So going from that situation where, you're getting constant feedback and you have a healer who's very vocal about, you're standing in things you shouldn't be standing in, to then moving to groups where you're not able to communicate unless you're typing in chat, that kind of thing. What was that like for you?
I mean, well, so my first pug group was my first ever mythic. It was a mythic 0. I'd only ever done heroics. It was basically like my intro into end game content was in a pug group because I was just kind of trying to figure out what it was like. People were not nice to me. Like I didn't know what I was doing, but also it was a mythic 0, which if you don't know World of Warcraft, goes mythic 0 is just like the baseline easiest, and they go 1, 2, 3, 4, and just not, I guess they don't have a 1. I guess it's 2, 3, 4. Sorry. And when you're pushing like 10s, 11s, 15s, 20s, like, yeah, you do expect that everyone's going to know the mechanics. I think, especially now looking back on it, I'm like, in a mythic 0, you don't need to be a dick to the people who are still trying to figure out what's going on. But
absolutely agree.
In any case, people were not nice to me, and I did not play in a pug group probably for 8 to 10 months after that. I refused to play if we didn't have at least like 1 or 2 people from our group online, just because WoW can be a very toxic community. I think that anyone who kind of knows stereotypes in gaming knows that the World of Warcraft player base is known for not being the most welcoming and kind group of folks on the planet. And I definitely experienced that, especially early on when I was not the best player. And by not the best, I mean pretty bad. So yeah, what I will say is, I obviously did have a bad time in the beginning, but we've also met some really cool people through pugging and through, trying to get together raid groups and that sort of thing. And people who have, joined our Discord, who we now know and know things about their life and chat with. So I don't want that to be a deterrent for people, but I do think it is important to know going in, because I didn't know going in how cruel the community can be at times, especially for new players. And I feel very lucky that I did have a group of people who were very kind and were very open to and receptive to helping me learn. Because I know I have friends who didn't have that and just kind of rage quit the game after a minute, because it's really hard when you don't have people to support you. And the game itself is incredible. And it's, I think, probably like a learning for the community that people need to be more open and be willing to help newbies out and really be willing to go over mechanics and that sort of thing, especially on lower level dungeons or raids or whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely agree. There's definitely an expectation that you understand everything before you get in there for the first time, which is not a reasonable thing to expect of everybody. Yeah, I am one of those people who will always go and watch videos beforehand so that I know what's happening before I get in there. But not everyone has the time or is willing to commit their free time to that. I will spend it, but not everyone wants to.
And you shouldn't have to. Like,
you
I
definitely
think that's the big thing is that some people really know life World of Warcraft. And like, I get it. I get the desire to, because there's always more stuff to do. You can always level up your gear. There's always more quests that you can go on. But if you don't want to do that, you should still be able to, what I do, hop in and do a couple of dungeons, probably like once a day, maybe once every other day. And that should be an acceptable way to play the game.
I mean, it is.
I mean, it is. But you know what I mean? Just that there's an expectation that people are going to sort of go hard to the point that they know everything and they've researched everything. And like, not everyone has that time.
Also worth acknowledging that there are very few people that have the time to know everything about World of Warcraft. The game has been out for coming up on 20 years. And actually, with that sort of as the segue, we have this game that is almost legally able to drink. What is
legally able to drink in Europe? Sorry.
True in Europe. Yeah, those listening abroad. What is if you had to pick a singular aspect of World of Warcraft that is like your favorite thing, the thing that brings you the most joy from the game, what would you say that is?
So I think that like mechanically in terms of playing, I really love pushing hard content. I love running high level mythics. I like pushing keys. I like raiding a lot. I wish we had enough people to consistently raid with. That has been a constant struggle, but whenever we do raid, I really enjoy it. But more broadly, I think for someone like me who really appreciates a fleshed out world and who also has like the most bare minimum experience with game development, it is so impressive to me the way that these game devs have created this world that is, I mean, it spans multiple worlds, right? And now a sort of like afterlife plane that is also not part of Azeroth or the main core world. And not only have they created and physically developed like the landscapes and all that sort of thing for all these different spaces, they've also created the story and the lore behind them, which I am so enamored of what this game is, just very bare bones. Like the fact that they can host servers that have people from all over the world to play in this open world environment that has been so thought out and that is like genuinely, I think some zones are so sorry, I don't know if I can curse, so beautiful, so just like fun to spend time in. So just from the perspective of what the game is as a whole, to me that might be the most impressive piece. How about you?
I think the thing that I love the most about the game, throwing aside the mechanics and pushing hard content, because that has always been a thing that I have loved the most. I love that I've been playing this game I love it so much. I think the thing that gets me the most is the fact that I've been playing the game for as long as I have, and I still find new things that I didn't know about, didn't know existed, and I continue to this day to just be blown away when you find like a whether it's a like a hidden cave or a subplot of some like small storyline that is like someone took the time to make this like beautiful thing, and it's not a core part of the game, it's not something that gets talked about, but it's there, and there is there's truly that whole world for you to explore, and I absolutely love it. It brings me so much joy. That, and of course having a way to spend time with friends who also play the game.
So many good goofs.
Such good goofs. So any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think if I get one thing across here, it's that I know it can be a very daunting game to get involved with, but if you can find a good community that will support you through the learning process, it is so worth it. And like, I really don't want people to feel afraid to get into WoW, because I mean, hell, if I can do it, anyone can do it, because truly I mean, as Ben will attest, my ability to even tell up from down is not great. So if I'm
Highly suspect.
So if I'm here pushing like Mythic plus 15 to 20 or whatever it is, like truly anyone can do it. So yeah, I think just if you're interested, try it out. Try to find people that you can play with who won't be dicks.
Hit us up.
Yeah, message us. We love playing WoW with new people.
Absolutely.
Love bringing new people into the community for sure.
I will not flame you for failing at mechanics until the second week, at which point you should be flawless.
How about you? Do you have any last thoughts that you would like to share?
No, my last thought was, if you are interested and have never played the game, or have played the game but it's been a long time and you want to get back into it, and you would like to join a group of folks who are friendly and caring and willing to take the time to explain mechanics beforehand, or just say YOLO and go for it, come find us. Our main server is Illidan. You can reach out to Katie or myself on Twitter, shoot us a DM, tag us in a comment.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I assume that our handles will be in the episode notes, but just in case they aren't, I'm at KMDEMAT on Twitter. And Ben, you are
at Ben_Mar_Moo, which is MOO.
And we stream usually 2 or 3 days a week on twitch.tv/unprofessionalventures. So come find us in one of these 2 places.
And as always, happy gaming. Yeah.
Hey there, Screen Beans. Have you heard about Screen Snark?
Rachel, this is an ad break. They aren't Screen Beans until they listen to the show.
Fine. Potential Screen Beans. You like movies and TV shows, right?
I mean, who doesn't? Screen Snark is a casual conversation about the movies and television shows that are shaping us as we live our everyday lives.
That's right, Matt. We have a chat with at least one incredible guest every episode, hailing from all walks. We've interviewed chefs,
writers, costumers, musicians,
yoga teachers, comedians, burlesque dancers,
folks in the film and TV industry,
and more.
We'd be delighted for you to join us every other Monday on the Certain POV Podcast Network.
Or wherever you get your podcasts, fresh and tasty off the presses.
What? That's not...
Can I call them Screen Beans now?
Fine.
Screen Beans!
So tune in and we'll see you at the movies or on a couch somewhere.
'Cause you're all Screen Beans now.
She will be mine. Aurora.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.